This is Gilberto Mora, a 16-year-old attacking midfielder who plays for Tijuana in the Mexican League. And he's just one of 10 hidden Wonderkids that I've found in FM26. In today's video, we're going to simulate their careers, and I'll be ranking them from the worst to the best. And so let's get started. This is my list of 10 hidden Wonderkids in FM26. So now let's step forward in time and see how their careers pan out. And so coming in at number 10 is a man by the name of Sami Bouhoudane. Bouhoudane starts the game as a 17-year-old striker at PSV. He's from the Netherlands and he begins the game, despite being 17, with really decent dribbling, finishing and good acceleration and pace. But Sami's career, well, it didn't go quite to plan. After 5 years at the age of 22, Sami was playing in Belgium for KV Kortrijk. He'd improved as a player, but definitely hadn't made big strides forward. I should mention too that his transfer value at this stage at 22 was still only between 230k and 2.3 million pounds. And perhaps for some you could see this as a positive because it means that he's affordable, you can buy him. But another 5 years into the future, and with Sami now 27 and in his prime, he finds himself playing in Saudi Arabia. He's picked up some nice green attributes, 16 acceleration, 15 pace, 16 finishing as well, and his transfer value is up to 21 million. But he never really reached his potential because after 15 years and coming towards the end of his career, Sami's still playing in Saudi Arabia for Al Weda, and now at this stage his attributes are starting to decline. I'm sure he's pretty happy to be on 185k a week though. Our simulated career for Bouhoudane is one of disappointment really. At the start of the save he spent ages in the PSV youth team before moving to Belgium, and then it was an £8 million move to Saudi Arabia where, admittedly, he scored a lot of goals, but he never did make that elite move, which is why he comes in at number 10 in my list of Wonderkids. But I do think if you manage to get him early in his career, you could develop him closer to his actual potential and you'd have yourself a real player there. Oh, and yeah, because I've done the hard work to find you FM26 Wonderkids, I think you should subscribe to the channel. In at number 9, I bring you Davinchi. Davinchi is a 17-year-old left-back from Spain. He plays for Getafe at the start of the game, and he's got a pretty hefty price tag to begin with. He does, though, have very decent physical attributes, and he's a left-back who can kind of cross. So if nurtured properly, this could be an elite left-back. And after 5 seasons at the age of 22, Davinchi in our simulation had moved to Villarreal. His value had shot up to 54 to 85 million pounds, and his attributes had definitely improved, but not necessarily exploded. And that was the trend that kind of continued in another 5 years. At 27, Davinchi was still playing at Villarreal. Although now, at what we'd consider to be his peak, his physical attributes had seen a real improvement, and that crossing had even jumped up to 13. Now, Davinchi might have been a bit of a late bloomer in this save, because 10 years in, he looked like a solid left-back, but was still playing for Villarreal. But 5 years later, at 32, when he'd started to decline, he'd actually made the move to Manchester City. And even before that City move, he'd actually moved to Barcelona for £41 million. This is a really solid career for a left-back, but the reason I've put him in at number 9 is again because I don't think he quite reached the heights that he could have done, although like I said, it is really solid. Coming in at number 8, I've gone for Ayyoub Bouaddi. Now, I know, it's okay. I'm playing hard and fast with the term hidden with this one. Lots of you will have heard of Ayyoub Bouaddi, but maybe some of you haven't. So let me have this one. Bouaddi starts FM26 at Lille in France, and he's already a pretty outrageous footballer. His value range is 105 million to 129 million pounds. And to be honest, that's the main reason that he comes in at number 8 for me. He's probably just going to be really difficult to get your hands on. Now, interestingly, and I'm hoping that this is something that sort of happens more regularly, in our simulation, Bouaddi moved to Villa on a free transfer. So maybe there is hope that we can get hold of him after all. And then 5 years later, when Bouaddi is 27, he's in his prime and his attributes are just, I mean, they're outrageous. And I mean, this is a midfielder that can just do it all. Let the green attributes speak for themselves. And to be honest, 5 years after that, when he's 32, he'd picked up 123 caps for France, and I mean, he's still brilliant. That Liverpool move, by the way, from Villa was for £57 million, and I think they ended up getting a bargain based on those average ratings and just how many appearances he ended up making for them. Bouaddi is outrageously good. You've just got to hope that you can actually be able to sign him. Number 7, I've gone for a young man by the name of Justin Lerma. Lerma is a 17-year-old Ecuadorian player who plays in Ecuador for Independiente del Valle. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that is the Ecuadorian team that Moises Caicedo also came from. So maybe you could be getting your hands on the next Moises Caicedo, although I think Justin Lerma might be a bit more attacking. At 17, he's already quick with 14 pace and acceleration and brilliant on the ball. He's got 14 dribbling, 13 passing and 14 vision. Considering he's 17 years old, that is a very promising start. Unfortunately though, he does have a future transfer. Isn't that just the worst thing ever when a Wonderkid's got a future transfer so you can't sign them? Lerma has a transfer arranged to join Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga, so 5 years later at 22, that's where he's playing. And I mean, look how good he is already. His value range is up to between 83 million and 130 million, and he's jumped up to 17 pace and acceleration. He's also grown 2 inches, and it looks like Dortmund have been using him more as an attacking midfielder in the number 10 spot. In our simulation, Lerma would stay at Dortmund the entire time. And he's another one, a bit like Bouaddi, who at 32 doesn't really look like he's slowing down that much. In the 15 years that we simulated, he would make just under 600 appearances for Dortmund, starting pretty much every game, every season, with multiple seasons getting an average rating over 7. 15 years in, with plenty still left in the tank, he's got himself 169 goals in his career too. He is a superb Wonderkid in FM26, but it's that future transfer to Dortmund that's kept him down at number 7 in my list. Now, in at number 6 is a slightly older Wonderkid by the name of Johan Manzambi. He's 19 years old at the beginning of FM26, and he's a Swiss international already. He plays anywhere in the midfield and is already very solid. His perfectionist personality means he should reach his potential ability, and in this simulation, 5 years later, he was still at Freiburg in the Bundesliga. He's picked up a few more nice green attributes, and 5 years in, his value range of between 57 million and 73 million is pretty steep, but in this day and age, it's probably about right. So how did he look in his prime? Well, at 29 years old, he'd picked up even more green attributes and had made the move across Germany to Stuttgart. That move was for a whopping £73 million, and he became the key man in Stuttgart's midfield. By the time we were 15 years into our simulation, and Manzambi was 34 years old, he started to slow down a little bit, but he picked up 122 caps for Switzerland, and his average rating was over 7 for every season bar this final one. A really solid midfielder to pick up if you could get him for a sensible fee, but you should be able to tempt him to move away from Freiburg, so maybe that fee would be worth it. We're halfway through, because in at number 5, I've gone for Said Al-Mala. I think he'll be a popular Wonderkid this year because this is what he looks like at the start of the game. He plays for FC Cologne in the German Bundesliga and is a midfielder from Germany. He's already 6'2" with 17 dribbling and 17 flair. So you can already kind of imagine the type of player he is. And 5 years into this simulation, he's still at Cologne, but he's really started to improve. His pace is up to 16, and even that dribbling has jumped up to 18 now. In this simulation, Cologne seem to have trained him to be able to play left wing back and striker, but I want you to notice that his transfer value is still only between £17.5 million and £22 million. If you're 5 years into a save, there's a really good chance that you've got that type of money, and because he's at Cologne, he might be the type of player that you could tempt to join your club. And that's what Liverpool did in this simulation. 5 years later, in his prime at 28, he now plays in the Premier League. His value range has shot up massively, and Liverpool think he's good enough to put him on £350,000 per week. He spent the next 5 years at Liverpool, and at 33, as he started to slow down, I think you can look back on a successful career, including the season before last where he scored 25 goals and got 10 assists. Look at those average ratings as well. This is a serious Wonderkid. And he's another one, a bit like Bouaddi, who ended up moving on a free transfer, which gives you maybe a little bit of extra hope that you could actually sign him in your save. In at number 4, we have another player that is maybe relatively known these days. His name is Kees Smit, and he plays for AZ Alkmaar in the Netherlands. He starts the game at 19 years old, so a little bit older, and he's already a pretty good player. Very well-rounded, good physicals, and some really nice technicals, including a 15 first touch and 15 technique. Now, his transfer value is already pretty high, between 35 and 54 million, but how did he get on in our simulation? Well, 5 years later, he's still playing for AZ Alkmaar in the Eredivisie, but that first touch and that technique is up to 16, and he's picked up 18 caps for the national team. Another 5 years, and with Smit now 29 years old, well, he's still at AZ Alkmaar. But I'm looking at him as a really well-rounded, solid central midfielder. He's good on the ball, but decent off it as well, and he's truly established himself in the Netherlands national team. And in this simulation, with his career starting to wind down, at 34, Kees Smit had moved to Al Faisaly in Saudi Arabia, and kind of different to a lot of the players that we've looked at in today's video, his physicals had really started to fall off a cliff. What was missed out there, though, was actually in 2036-37, Kees Smit moved to Inter Milan for £85 million, which maybe goes to show how highly rated he actually can be. I don't think we've seen the best of Kees Smit in this particular simulation, but he did put together some really consistent seasons there for AZ Alkmaar and got himself a big move to Inter Milan. I think if you managed to get him maybe earlier in his career, you'd see an even better outcome. And that takes us through to my top 3. And my choice for number 3 is maybe a slightly left field decision. It's a young centre-back by the name of Johan Gadou. Now, Gadou's 18 years old at the start of the game, and he's playing for Salzburg in Austria. He's 6'5" with 17 jumping reach, which is, yeah, that's one of the main reasons I like him so much. With a profile like this, with his attributes in these places, I can see him becoming a really incredible defender in FM26. And that's exactly what he did in this simulation. 5 years later, Gadou has moved to Man City. And just have a look at those physicals. Not only is he massive, but he's also quick. 16 acceleration, 15 pace. Good enough for Man City to sign him. And then played pretty consistently for the next 5 years. City picked him up for £14.5 million as well, which I just think could be a massive bargain in this year's game. After City, he moved to Juventus for £38 million before a loan at Chelsea became permanent, and that's where he was after 15 years of our simulation. Still playing every game for Chelsea in the Premier League. I've put him top because I can see him being really usable and effective in the match engine. He's my type of player. And that brings us to number 2 on the list, which is my man here, Lennon Miller. I know that I'm already going to adore this player in FM26. He is a full Scottish international, so if you're Scottish, you know who this guy is. He's 18 years old and he's just made the move in real life to Udinese in Serie A. He's a central midfielder, can play a little bit deeper, can play a little bit higher, and in this save here, he starts with 16 determination, and he's pretty much good at everything except for running fast. In our simulation though, 5 years later, he sorted that out. He's got himself some okay acceleration and pace and some really impressive looking mentals. At 23, he's still playing at Udinese, but with a price range between 24 million and 38 million, I just know that he's attracting some interest from top clubs around Europe. And so it came to pass. 5 years later, in his prime at 28, Lennon Miller had made the move to PSG, and have a look at those mental attributes. 18 leadership as well. Guys, this is your captain if you sign him. And having him in your midfield with his 16 passing and 16 vision, as well as the fact he can take penalties, 16 penalty taking, I think I'm going to sign him in every save if I can. And because he'd never really had to rely on his pace, 5 years later at 33, he was almost as good as he'd ever been. In his career, he'd now got 121 caps for Scotland. And the best thing for me, as well as those average ratings towards the end of his career with PSG, is the fact that they were able to pick him up for just £43 million. You'd think in your own saves, you might be able to pick up Lennon Miller for even less than this. And I just think he'll become your main man in midfield. That's why he's number 2 on my list. And that just leaves us with number 1. The best hidden wonder kid to sign in FM26, in my opinion, is the man we talked about at the start. It's Gilberto Mora of Tijuana. He is the archetypal FM wonder kid. Super cheap, playing in an obscure league with massive potential. And at 16 years old, he's already pretty good. And you can actually approach to sign him at the start of the game, although he probably won't talk to you. Give it a year or two though, and I'm sure you can persuade him to come and join you. In this simulation, he moved to Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia. At the age of 21 though, some of his attributes were already outrageous. 16 crossing, 17 dribbling, 16 passing, 16 technique, 17 vision, 17 flair, the list, well, it goes on. I must point out as well right now that Al Hilal are paying him £800,000 a week. And just to rewind a little bit, Al Hilal actually signed him from PSG. PSG picked him up from Tijuana in Mexico for just £3 million in 26-27. And then 5 years later, 10 years into our simulation, Gilberto Mora is 26 and he's playing for Al Ahly. He's a world-class number 10, or you could use him on either flank. 5 years later, he's still only 31 because he starts the game at 16 and he's back at PSG. They re-signed him on a free transfer and I must show you his average ratings and stats from these seasons. He spent the past 4 seasons at PSG and not averaged less than an 8. That is outrageous. And all things considered, his high potential, his low transfer fee, and his ability to reach his potential, it for me makes him the best hidden wonder kid to go and sign in FM26. And that's that. Guys, these are the wonder kids that I've managed to find. Maybe you guys have found different ones. If you have, put them in the comments down below. And a small disclaimer before we finish. A lot of these guys will probably have dynamic potential abilities, so some of the specific numbers might not be exactly the same in your saves, but you know how these things work. They'll be around about the same. If you enjoyed this FM26 video, you should stick around and watch the other one that pops up at the end of this one and subscribe to the channel for more.